had its first birthday back in November, and with that came a new spec version. It is the uh, very very memorable 2025 1125 spec version, and that has a lot of cool new features, including some features such as the registry, which launched recently, and then some others which we'll demo and go through today. So first of all, it's not really something that came out in that version, but it's kind of come out over the last few months. Is the MCP registry. So for the last like year or so, folks have been like collaborating on having a central registry like npm, like PyPy, like NuGet, like those things for MCP servers. And so we also have added support for this into VS Code. And so I think this came out, I think a couple versions ago now, but basically if you go into your extensions view and type @MCP, that'll get you to the MCP registry. And so we have all these like wonderful servers. We have Markdown, we have Playwright, we have like Notion, Supabase, we have all these things. Deeper-Key is a good one. So like I love using it for anytime I'm trying to like play with a like repo that like maybe like newer, it might not be, you know, in the model's training data. I can just point to the wiki add repo and say, like find like how to do something with this, and then it works. So all you have to do is hit install, and just like that, the MCP server is installed into VS Code, and you can go ahead and use it in chat. And one other small note is that if you use MCP in VS Code, like maybe like earlier this year, you might have seen the lovely blue like button to like refresh your refresh like your tools in chat whenever you install a new server. We actually recently have done away with that, so now servers will be started like on demand automatically whenever you send a chat message, and so you don't have to manually manage those life cycles anymore. But anyway, on to new things. So first thing, which is pretty cool, is URL mode elicitation. So elicitation is just a way to basically ask the user for stuff. And previously there was a way to ask users for like structured data, for like strings, numbers, like options. And now there's a way to also ask them to fill out a basically a web form. So a common pattern for this is using like logins, but actually played with making just a simple like web design MCP recently. And so I'm going to show off that right now. So let's see. You'll go ahead and start this off. So I'll say, please like start this project with like my portfolio, start with my code. That's looks like it's trying to do things first. Oh, did I? Oh, okay. I actually didn't install that server yet. So that's just, I have to do MCP add server. Let's see, localhost 3000 MCP. And then I'll just call that designer. In my workspace, and that appeared there. It's already running. And so now we can try that prompt again and see what happens. That should probably work better this time. There we go. So yes, I found the tool. It made this project. So now I can call the design layout tool, and that's going to actually use this new feature in MCP, where it's going to prompt me to open this URL. So like in general, like you want to make sure that the URLs that you open are trusted, because you know if you have like some prompt injection stuff going on, that can be an issue. But it's just going to localhost just with the IDs that I had before. So now I can open that link, and then this gives me this like nice little tool for sketching out my site. So I can say, you know, maybe I want like a header. I want to have like maybe like content here. Oops, screen's pretty laggy for some reason. There we go, some content there. Maybe like a sidebar. I'll say I want like content, and then maybe some like navigation there. Or I think my little vibe coded text input's not working, but if I hit done, then that returns a control back to the server, and then we'll see that it got that the server. We can see it also returned my beautiful sketch as a resource from that server. And so if I wanted to, I could like save this locally. I could hit this little button until I download it and say, you know, I want to save it here, and we now have my sketch, as well as it also returned basically a blob. It looks like it included like the image as well. So that's, yeah, so those are MCP resources. And so if you use a server like Figma or something, those are used really heavily, both to give resources back to the model, as well as like giving you a way to like save assets from your like your designs and layouts and so on. So that's one cool thing that came out recently. Oh yeah, and this is just kind of like a flow diagram kind of. So the server like asks for the elicitation, and the client like presents like that URL, and they have that interaction, and then the server notifies the client this happened. And so I think for usually if you're a developer working on MCPs, I think most SDKs have like abstract this for you, but that's kind of the flow going on behind the scenes. Also, with the latest version is the ability to have custom icons for servers and tools. And so I didn't show it before, but this server actually does have, let's see, where is it? There we go. I put in like a little like rocket ship icon for this server, just so I know, it's my cool server that I want to use to start my projects. And so it's supported for tools, servers, and I think we also have it on resources as well. Additionally, there are more options for elicitation. Previously, the options were basically like having string input, having a number input, or having a choice. And so I can go ahead. I think the configure the site flow actually uses elicitation. So if you've never used it in VS Code, this flow is pretty much already like a standard flow that we support for servers that ask us for elicitation. So I can say I want this like to be a creative site. I want to have a single page. That color sounds good to me. Sure, let's have some animations. And then also now there's support for the for a multi-select flow for the elicitations as well. So I can have both contact form and newsletter. Hit OK, and we see that that's the output that was created by my elicitation request. That's that. And now I'm going to actually send it back to Tyler before I talk about some more things later on.
Sweet. Thank you. So I get the auth portion of this talk. So hopefully this doesn't scare you all away. But the first thing I wanted to just show off is so like many months ago now we've worked at including MCP auth right in VS Code. So just to prove, I guess, to put my money where my mouth is, right? I'll just try this one random server by Neon. It's like a serverless platform. And so if I like click through here, I can go through their auth flow right from within VS Code. And then you see once that's like actually started, I've got the 27 tools available via the MCP server. All loaded in and ready to go. So that's using like a flow that's called protected resource metadata. And I don't want to bore you with more sequence diagrams, but the way this works, and this is important if you're an MCP server developer who wants to add auth to your MCP server. But essentially, the client VS Code in this case is going to make a request over to your MCP server, but without a token initially. And then your MCP server then returns a nice www authenticate header. And here's like an example of one down below where you mention where your resource metadata is. The resource is your MCP server. And then also any scopes that you need in order to interact with your MCP server. So you return that in a www authenticate header. There's like this alt portion I cut out if you want to do other things, but I think this is the happy path. So you probably want to do something like this. And so then you will return this like metadata. And just to give you a real example, here's what GitHub's looks like. So if you go to like this URL, you can see what their MCP protected resource metadata looks like. So they've got like resource name in here, and the important part is this authorizations server section, and then also the scope supported as well. And all this really says is like, hey, my MCP server uses this auth server in order to authenticate. So obviously GitHub here uses GitHub's server. If you were writing like an MCP server that uses Entra ID, you would list your Entra ID server here, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, and so talking more about what's new in MCP auth, there was a new MCP auth flow that was recently adopted into the spec, and that's called client ID metadata document. Doesn't sound as nice as like, or liquid glass or like dynamic island, but you know, it's fine. And so that is now added as like the go-to flow for auth. So historically, there's been like dynamic client registration, which is actually how the Neon example works under the hood. The way that works is that the client registers with Neon's auth server and then gets back some client ID and then uses that for follow-up requests. But client ID metadata document is like the new hotness that's like very much in favor when compared to dynamic client registration. So if you are an MCP server author and you're looking for an authorization server, look for one that has client ID metadata, because that's the future. And if you happen to work on an authorization server that does not yet support client ID metadata documents, well, do I have some work for you? That will be super helpful because you'll be able to light up a bunch of MCP servers that are coming on board. And those two flows on the left are so much nicer than the manual flow, which we also support in VS Code, which is like manually providing a client ID, like the user manually providing a client ID themselves. So yeah. Definitely like client ID metadata document. That was a big push in the MCP community, and I'm really happy to see that. And just to give you an example of what that looks like, as I demo a second auth flow and promise you that there's something different about this one. Yeah, I'll do this, and I think I get an email for this one, so I'll have to like wait for that to come in, but that's fine. Yeah, so this is a demo that Stitch put together. They're an identity provider that was like early adopting in the client ID metadata document realm. And so they put together this nice MCP server to show this off, which is pretty cool. So this flow that you see is using that oops, I think I didn't actually copy it. There we go. Cool. So this is actually using client ID metadata document, and that just works, and I get my tool. So that's great. Let's see, what else? So those are the flows. And then the other thing I wanted to show up is something called step up. So this is not something I'm asking you to do. This is just a feature of the MCP spec where you use a token that maybe doesn't have access to every tool and every capability of the MCP server, but at some point you hit a wall where you need more auth, essentially. So to give you an example, I'm going to use the GitHub MCP server. We've been working with them to provide this experience. The MCP server itself doesn't quite, it's not finalized yet in this flow. But I wanted to show you what this looks like because it is supported in VS Code. And if you have another server that uses step-up auth, then you can also take advantage of this. So first, I just asked to give me a random issue in the VS Code repo. And what you didn't see me do before is I already authenticated to the GitHub MCP server. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask, tell me, search my orgs on GitHub. And what I can tell you is that the tool call that this will do does not have enough, needs more permissions than the token I gave it to. So we'll just wait for it to run the tool. Cool. And so then you see I get another auth prompt here, and this time it's asking for an extra scope, which is like organization access. And so I will go through here and we'll see that it succeeds. So the whole reason for step up is like, we want it to be possible to first ask for the minimum required permissions. And then as you start to use more and more of an MCP server, ask for auth on demand, right? So that's kind of the reason for step up. And so So yeah, so that's also supported in VS Code already. And yeah, and it will come soon to the GitHub MCP server soon enough. So
Nice.
I think that's it for me. So
So is step up also part of the spec? So can any server developer implement step up as well?
yeah, that's right. So
Nice.
it's in the spec as well, in the like security considerations part of the authorization section of the spec. So
Nice.
there's a lot of good stuff in there, and a lot of power within MCP. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Connor to talk about some more future stuff. Is that right?
So some present, some future.
Sweet.
But you might notice the theme of getting lower level, but also getting more powerful, kind of. So, the next big thing, which was a major push, and actually took like I think there are like 5 or 6 different like versions of this before MCP landed on what came out as tasks. And so there's a few things in MCP that can like take a while. So, if some of those are obviously like tool calls. If you have like a tool call that says like provision a like VM or something for me, that which could take a few minutes, or you have like elicitation scenarios where you're asking a user for input, like maybe they're like off making coffee or something and it takes a few minutes for that to happen, or for sampling, which is a case where the server can ask like the client to make a like language model request on its behalf, and so that could take a while. So in these cases, currently these work like great if you have like a local server like running on like STIO, because that's running its process. It can live forever. It's great. But if you're using a like remote MCP server like GitHub MCP or other MCPs that operate over the network, you can have issues like with like network connections. Like I like to work on airplanes, and so like often the Wi-Fi goes down for like a minute or two, or if you just have other like disconnections or just like proxy servers, for example, which might like close connection after a few minutes. Tasks are just a way for both clients and servers to have these like things that can be associated with these different calls that can be like pulled on. So I also have a nice big sequence diagram for this, but essentially it's kind of like how you think. So when these like requests is made, I think this is for a sampling request that comes from the server. It says here's my request, and also like I'm associating this like task ID with this request, and then the server can then pull the client for updates on that, or for like when it's complete. And so there's things going on there, but then like basically it completes, and then this is a way that server can be like reliable to like disconnections. If they can always like come back later, there's like methods to like list the ongoing tasks, and so on and so forth. So I actually have an example of this. So in VS Code, we support this now in the latest like 1.107 version. But it is something that like you as a user like never see. Like it just happens like automatically in the background. If a server supports it, great. If they don't, then it's all the same, but you'll just get like more liability. But like you can trust me, like when I say this server does support tasks. And so I'll show that by saying I want to now I'll generate contents. And this actually is going to use a sampling request that also is associated with a task. And so sampling, if you haven't seen what it looks like in VS Code, it's going to think for a second, and then it's going to basically issue that thing, which I think actually already gave permission for the server to do that. But I can actually see there's a sound. Actually, if I go to MCP list servers, I can actually see a log of the sampling request that's made so far, which I think it's still generating that request. So let's let it run for seconds. I can also look at the Copilot debug log, which is also great if you just want to see what's happening behind the scenes. There we go. I think it's still thinking a bit.
I mean, the concept of sampling is just wild to me. Of like, I've got an MCP server, the LLM triggered a tool on the MCP server. Now the MCP server wants to ask back to the LLM, hey, I need you to do something for me.
Yeah, just like
cool.
Yes, like initially, like you will get like a prompt saying, do you want to like let the server like make requests on your behalf? And then you can also actually configure which models it's allowed to use. And so by default, I think that we just put everyone on 4.1 right now because that's so I think this defaulted because I selected it before, but I think by default it'll be on the GPU 4.1 just because it's a free model that's fast. But you can pick any model you want to here. You can like select your models, and then based on server parameters, we'll like select the one that best matches what server's looking for. So let's see. I'm not sure if that actually worked or not, or maybe it timed out.
Like it timed out, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that's so. I think that although this does use tasks, I think that it wasn't fully adopted in the actual like SDK yet. But you know, in theory, this should work. So, but please, if you're a server developer, you can try out tasks. Like, do let us know. I'll if you have issues, and also like this is a very complex space that actually like is just coming to SDKs now. Like SDKs, I think some of them support it, like some of them don't. So please like open issues like on us, and then we can, you know, if it's an SDK issue, we can also like find the right root cause and so on and so forth. So that's tasks. Also this is something that came in the latest spec, which we don't yet support, is sampling with tools. And so we just we just like showed like sampling, which is like a way to make like a sampling request that says like here's a prompt, give me back the LLM response. And so sampling with tools basically lets like MCP servers like actually build their own like agent loops by providing tools that the model can call and that can be like sent back to it and follow-up requests. This is also sort of like what you think. So like the server makes some like just like initial requests that it has tools. There is the like approval step because like we want to approve before we put use resources. But then it can then like call tools and then like execute the full like LLM loop like in the background. So that's super cool. Yeah, there were some like API changes like in VS Code that we have to make to actually support this, but it should come probably most likely in the next release. So that's something to look forward to. Finally, I just wanted to touch briefly on virtual tools, which is something that we actually did in VS Code. Like you might have seen like a few months ago, if you had like MCP servers give to lots of tools, you get some error saying, you know, you had more than like 128 tools turned on, and to please like disable some or your request would fail. We actually, so like recently we introduced like virtual tools, which are essentially tools that are like directories of other tools. And so how we do this is that we compute like embeddings for like each tool, and then create these clusters of tools, and then we use the clusters to form a directory. And so instead of saying there's like, say like 10 tools for GitHub issues, we say, here's like one like activate GitHub issues tool, and please call this if you need to do anything with GitHub issues. And so that was like I think implemented back in September, but it's gone much better recently. It's gone faster. And also we now actually pre-select tools based on the embeddings on like your own request. And so like we match the embeddings on your user query as well as some other data against different tools. And so then we can actually pre-select the tools that are relevant, which makes the model behave better because it has to do less steps. And also it's faster for you because there's like less back and forth like from the model to the VS Code and back to the model again. So yeah, so that's super cool. And then things in the future, sampling with tools, of course, you just mentioned that we'll support it soon. That's, I think, the only feature in MCP that we don't support right now. And the other thing that everyone's talking about is MCP apps, which are kind of the evolution of MCP UI and also the open AI apps SDK have kind of like collaborated on this new proposal for MCP apps, which are a way to provide like rich UI from the server, like in response back to the client that clients can interact with and users can use. So both very cool things to watch for. And then also there's some other investigations, but I think that we're short on time, so I will leave you in suspense. All right, I think that's all that I had.
Same.
Well, yeah.